Welcome to Executives at the Edge, a podcast brought to you by MEF. I'm your host, Pascal Menezes. Join me as we explore thought-provoking perspectives from the leaders and changemakers who are propelling enterprise digital transformation forward. I'm really so excited to have Rick Lievano, CTO worldwide of Telco Industry at Microsoft. Rick, welcome to Executives at the Edge. And today I believe we're going to cover some really incredible scenarios around AI and network APIs, our application developers can interact with networks, and various other use cases that Microsoft and Azure is working on. So Rick, welcome to Executives at the Edge. And with that, can you please just help our listeners with a background of yourself and what your kind of role is? That'd be appreciated.
Thanks, Pascal. It's great to be here. I'm Rick Lievano. I'm the worldwide CTO for the telco industry of Microsoft. And as part of my role, Pascal and listeners, I work very closely with our partners, with standards organizations like MEF, and of course with our customers, with our telco customers, setting the strategy, the technology strategy as to how Microsoft and our broad partner ecosystem can really address the needs of the business.
So Rick, many listeners want to know, how will Microsoft's work and its cloud relate to networking? Like where does Microsoft Azure especially relate to networking? And I know you're the CTO for the worldwide telcos, I think, so many of the telcos want to understand that.
Thanks. I think maybe we'll pull it up maybe a little higher level, right? Because Microsoft is such a large company. We work with telcos in such a variety of ways. For context, I think it might help maybe to give you a little bit of background on that. So sometimes Microsoft can appear to be like that seven-headed monster when we try to work with telcos, because there's so many parts of organization that really works with telcos in a variety of ways. So for example, we're clearly selling our products, albeit the traditional licensed products or all of the cloud services that are part of the Microsoft Cloud, Azure, as you mentioned, to telcos. That's a traditional kind of vendor relationship, right? Where we're a supplier to telcos, providing them platforms for them to run their business. But Pascal, you know that we're lighting up data centers across the world, right? I think just recently, in our quarterly report, we announced that we spent over $50 billion in CapEx. A vast majority of that was building out data centers across the world. And of course, these data centers require connectivity. And so, not surprisingly, we are a huge buyer of telecom services, network services, as we connect and light up these data centers across the world. But lastly, I think most importantly, we are partnering with telcos, and that is really our preferred muscle, right? How do we work with telcos? We work with telcos in a partnership, and that partnership can take many different ways, right? We can certainly partner with telcos as a channel for Microsoft services, where telcos resell a lot of the Microsoft services that we build, like Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Copilot as an example. But also, we're driving utilization of the network by both enterprise customers, SMB, and consumers with the cloud services that we build as well. But I think the area that I feel is most exciting is how we co-innovate with telcos and developing new applications that kind of meld or converge the cloud, AI, and of course the network, and developing new solutions that ultimately help telcos build new revenue streams, right? They're create new top line revenues, and that's the exciting part.
So talk about what does that look like in use cases? Have you got some scenarios that you can help the listeners understand on how they can?
Absolutely. So one of the very exciting areas that we've been investing in is helping our telco partners kind of reimagine, for example, voice services, right? If you look at a voice service today, be it PSTN or mobile voice, these are services that really have remained largely unchanged for decades, right? I think the last major change that we saw to traditional voice was untethering it from the wall, right? So it basically, voice became mobile. And now you can, have this this device that you can carry around and essentially make a phone call from anywhere in the world. And that was exciting, but that also happened in the 60s, right? So what else has come to voice since? When you take a look at VoIP services like Teams, like Zoom, etc., you see that they're actually beginning to build new capabilities by leveraging generative AI, for example. So if I'm on a Teams call, I can automatically transcribe that call. I can have it summarized for me. I can have my AI assistant, in this case, the Microsoft Copilot, take notes, set action items, really provide me a very rich history as to what transpired during that call. And if I have that exact same conversation over my mobile phone, I don't have any of that richness, right? And so one of the things that we're working with operators is how do you start infusing some of these AI capabilities inside of your voice service, right? And so that's been a really exciting journey, and we've worked with a number of operators trying to begin to think through, the various different use cases that are relevant here.
What about data? Like, we're moving to the edges where computing is going to happen a lot, and we're going to see AI as a predominant use case. And, there's a couple of scenarios I'm thinking. Cybersecurity, you have billions of endpoints from your Windows and other applications. You're probably seeing a lot of threats. And you're seeing the threat landscape. How can you help operators to digest those threats, provide them with the instrumentation and the telemetry so that they can then take and work collectively together? It's one example I think is really cool. The other one example is how will that relate to the edge compute that these operators are putting in? Because they have their network edges. They're putting in all their POPs and they're going to have compute capabilities. How can AI and Microsoft feed into that? I think that's a very interesting questions I've been having.
Yeah, those are great questions also, Pascal. I do agree. I think part of the challenge, of course, is just the ridiculously large volume of data that the telcos traditionally deal with. There is big data, and then there is telco data, right, which is orders of magnitude larger than traditional big data deployments, right? And so that's a huge problem, and we've been trying to address it in a number of ways. A lot of times this is time series data. It's really important that if you look at the data within say a few minutes, but once that time has elapsed, the data kind of loses its value. And so what we've been working on is really providing telcos with a much simpler means of consolidating a lot of this time series data that originates from network gear, right? It could be all sorts of telco gear as well as traditional network, enterprise network gear. And so being able to rapidly ingest and parse and understand, the various different schemas. For example, if you're parsing and sanitizing XDR, doing so, rapidly in memory, and being able to ingest this massive amount of data, again, very, very quickly. And then step two is now having automated agents, autonomous agents, machine learning models that can take a look at this data and start, searching for anomalies, potential warning signs or triggers that can, help a network engineer more quickly address an issue or detect an issue and ultimately resolve it, right? So you can reduce the mean time to resolution. And so, for that, we've actually been engineering a set of products, one of which formerly was known Azure Operator Insights. We've now kind of migrated or merged that product to a new family of Microsoft products called Microsoft Fabric. And Microsoft Fabric is essentially a means for ingesting and managing huge volumes of data in the cloud. And so that's kind of been our approach. Now, we have been working with a number of operators. We've announced, some work with 3 UK, for example. 3 is one of the, operator in the UK, around 10 million or so subscribers. And, they really did recognize the importance of all these data insights. So they've been collaborating with us and kind of building a quality of experience and quality of service set of solutions where, again, we're helping them ingest this volume, this massive amount of data and telemetry, and be and help them identify, all the various different, factors contributing, in their case, to positive or negative customer experiences, right? That's the whole quality of experience point. Another really cool thing that once you're able to have a platform to be able to deal with telco data, again, being much bigger than big data, is, how can you now start analyzing, that volume, that just immense amount of dispersed and varied data. And so one ways that we've been able to achieve that is by implementing the concept of a co-pilot, a network co-pilot, for example, so that network engineer or the network analyst now has basically an AI agent that can help them discover insights, that can help them be more effective. And so the network analyst, for example, can ask questions using natural language, plain English or the language of their choice, in order kind of to determine what could possibly be going on with their network. And so, generative AI has been very helpful in this regard. And in this case, the virtual agent or the co-pilot, not only does it have visibility into, again, the vast volume of data that we're ingesting, but it's also been able to ingest things like the network topology and documentation, the product documentation for a variety of different network gear that's deployed. And so, for example, if an error code is encountered, you can ask the co-pilot very easily what that error code means, right? And because it's actually ingested the network documentation, it can actually tell you. And it can tell you how to resolve that error as well, right? And so what we've been able to determine, for example, is the amount of time that a network engineer or analyst takes to essentially diagnose an issue where they're actually looking for documentation. Spending 15, 20 minutes, again, trying to gather the necessary information they need in order to solve a problem. All that goes away because all that data is essentially available to the co-pilot. So that's another great use case, which can really help us run more efficient and better networks.
Rick, this is very fascinating. I think the ability to use AI for all of these use cases are incredibly amazing and innovative. And I think we're going to see so many more use cases. Switching topics, though, I know you've been involved with TM-Forum a lot. MEF has collaborated and built our APIs on top of TM-Forum APIs. And we announced at DTW, which I know you were there in Copenhagen in June, about how MEF and TM-Forum are collaborating. So can you help our listeners understand more about automation? How does that impact connection to clouds? How can we get better automation between clouds and telco networks? We've been working on the East-West APIs between the ecosystem and the service providers that they're partners, and also facing the enterprise. And TM-Forum is really well suited inside that service provider networks to automate there. How do you see automation come live with Microsoft's clouds? How do you see that all coming together? Because I know you know a lot about automation. You've been involved with TM-Forum for a long time. So can you help our listeners on this?
I can certainly try, Pascal. Obviously TM-Forum has done a great job, as is it predominantly around streamlining and increasing the interoperability across the business and operational support systems, right? That's been kind of their core focus. A couple points there, both which ultimately relate to automation of the broader suite of enterprise and OSS, BSS applications that telcos normally launch. One is around, being able to deploy applications, and of course those applications can be, network-related services. They can be OSS applications, which are relatively close to the network. But being able to deploy those types of applications and services to the cloud using kind of a standard set of capabilities so that they're easily understandable and interoperable with other solutions that exist. And so if you're able to now have a set of predefined building blocks that your applications can use to do those things and do it in a fairly consistent manner, it really does simplify dramatically your ability to launch and manage these types of applications in the cloud. And so that's been kind of one of our priorities in the case of T-Inform.
So Rick, that's really, really fascinating and interesting. You know, I think a lot has been talked about this idea of network APIs, or the ability of application developers to be able to utilize a set of standard APIs, we call them Chimera. It's out there, it's open source APIs, that they can basically leverage and utilize and code, and then have the application interact with networks and service providers and even clouds. How do you see that appearing? Obviously, Microsoft has a huge marketplace of developers, and it'd be interesting for how our listeners perceive Microsoft approaching this.
No, that's a great point. So listen, Pascal, this is funny, but how many times and for how many decades have telcos been trying to essentially create these kinds of network as a service capabilities and essentially develop developer ecosystems? Just, you know, every telco has tried it at one point or other, right? But it almost feels like we're almost there, right? Like we finally got we cracked the nut. And so, as you know, Microsoft was, you know, one of the very early founders of Chimera. We've been working with that group since its inception, and certainly working with the GSMA on the open gateway capabilities as well. And I think we, you know, when I mean that we cracked the nut, I think finally the industry has come together, right, to define a core set of APIs, right, that developers can now consume consistently across any network to basically, you know, be able to have an intelligent dialogue with that network. And they can support a variety of different categories of APIs, you know, things like security APIs for dealing with number verification or SIM swaps. Or quality of service, quality of experience API. So location services, all these things are pretty awesome, right? So the way that we've been going about it is we've got a great developer ecosystem in Azure, right? We have a lot of Azure developers, and we wanted to make it really dead simple for those Azure developers to be able to use these Chimera APIs, right? And so we developed something that we call Azure Programmable Connectivity, APC, and it's really just a cloud service that greatly simplifies so developers are able to interact with these network API services. And of course, these API services can come from multiple mobile operators. And so we have relationships with the likes of AT&T and Telefonica and Verizon and Deutsche Telekom, right? So we're able to also aggregate those services, right? And have a relationship with the operators so that, you know, again, the developer ecosystem that leverages Azure can very easily start to consume their network APIs. So think of it as a unified interface that really abstracts all these complexities that these different network APIs have, and really ensures this consistent and reliable connection, regardless of what network they're trying to access.
In conclusion, how do you think the telecom industry is going to evolve with these, you know, hyperscalers like yourself and every application is cloudifying? How do you see this all coming together? You know, if you can just help, that would be, our listeners understand this would be
yeah, no, that's perfect. And I mean, I'll kind of lark back to what I said at the beginning with regards to how we choose to, how Microsoft, you know, chooses to work with operators, you know, obviously as a supplier and also as a buyer, but most importantly as a partner. And there are just so many different areas that we can partner with. I mean, we just talked about Chimera and Open Gateway. That's just another potential avenue for partnering with hyperscalers, right? But these relationships are again very, very broad. And at the end of the day, we really choose to, you know, partner with the operators as a principal dimension, right? Not only as you know, things like we talked about earlier around, for example, reselling Microsoft services and creating these voice AI capabilities and things like APC, but the ocean of opportunities is immense. Right? We're ultimately, you know, all trying to, you know, service the same customers and, you know, provide simpler experiences. And we also know that, you know, the cloud, the traditional cloud that was primarily developed for IT workloads is now moving towards towards network workloads as well. And so telcos, also have the ability to begin partnering with hyperscalers like Microsoft to really be able to streamline their business and their operations by taking full advantage of the cloud capabilities that we built initially for the IT world and now for the telco world.
Well, Rick, I think it's been a fascinating discussion. Thank you for being participant on this episode. And I'm really looking forward to working more with you inside MEF. So thank you.
Thank you, Pascal. It was great talking to you.
Thanks for joining us for Executives at the Edge. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe today. Share online a review. Find all our episodes on your favorite podcast platform and at MEF.net.